up, everybody? Nate here. And once again, it looks like Gen Z is completely financially screwed. A recent survey showed that around 56% of Gen Z doesn't have anything in an emergency savings account, let alone have anything in savings at all. Not to mention, it looks like Gen Z is a lot less likely to start investing their money than some other previous generations. Now, we talk a lot about on this channel how important wealth is, but if wealth is so important, then why is an entire generation like Gen Z completely skipping it? Well, Gen Z has a lot of reasons to basically ignore wealth, but by them ignoring wealth, they're also missing a lot of really huge and honestly very simple money-making opportunities in 2023. And today we're going to talk about all of it, and I'm kind of going to give my thoughts about what is going on with Gen Z and what they could be doing to kind of make money in this really kind of difficult and slowing economy. Now, the first reason is extremely obvious to see why Gen Z is sort of ignoring wealth and ignoring investing and ignoring savings. They are sort of looking at everything that's going on in our economy today and thinking that everything is way too expensive, and why would they save a bunch of money and invest a bunch of money if the economy is just going to crash in the future? And that is a completely valid point. We have seen over the last 20 years or so the economy go through a huge boom and bust cycle very quickly, much quicker than we pretty much have ever seen. Like we saw the 2008 great housing market crash and the stock market crash that led us into the Great Recession. And then in 2020, we saw another huge recession. Now, the 2020 recession was very much shorter than what we saw in 2008, but it was again this extreme contraction of our economy, but it happened just about 10 years prior. So the entire stock market essentially went down, millions of people lost their jobs, and millions of people found out that they weren't really able to do much at their career anyway because they weren't going to make enough money to retire. That is what Gen Z is sort of living with right now. So they're deciding, I'm going to live in the moment. I'm going to spend my income on things that matter today. I'm not really going to look towards the future because you can't plan for the future because the future is always changing. Like I said before, that makes a lot of sense, but there's also a lot of things that Gen Z is sort of leaving out right now that could actually make them money. Now, I'm not saying that Gen Z needs to go out and save every single dollar that they have, because that is a really outdated financial tactic. This is something that my parents and grandparents and my grandparents' parents essentially instilled on them, but it just doesn't work in the economy today. You can't just save your way into wealth. Saving every single dollar and every single dime that you have is not going to make you a better financial person, and it's not going to bring you wealth, right? Because eventually all of that money that you have, well, it's not going to be enough to retire on, first of all, and second of all, it's going to continue to lose value and lose value to inflation. We have seen that over the last couple of years as the price of everything like goods and services has gone up exponentially. So anybody that just has money shoved in their mattress, or anybody that is just using a regular savings account, is essentially losing a ton of money by saving and saving alone. But it doesn't mean that Gen Z, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't save at all. There is a purpose to a savings account, and that is to protect yourself today, because Gen Z, if it's true that they want to do things today, they want to go out and travel, and they want to live in the moment and get concert tickets, and they want to live in the moment and do things with their friends, then they're going to have to protect their finances in order to be able to do that. The first sort of line of defense is starting some type of savings account, particularly for emergencies. That way Gen Z doesn't have to go into debt and doesn't have to spring into the buy now, pay later services to buy things like their groceries because they're in debt, or they don't have any money because they're broke every single week because they spend all of their cash. If you were to have some type of emergency savings, now if something comes up like your car breaks down or you have a broken window, then you're easily able to pay for those things without basically the entire rest of your life changing around you. So have an emergency savings account, have some type of money set aside for if something happens or you need to buy something. And that is very important because that could happen in the short term. That's not something that could necessarily happen years down the road. Now, if you want to play around with the idea of having a long-term savings, well, this is where you now have to figure out, what do you want more in life? And that is exactly what Gen Z is trying to figure out right now. Do they want to just go out and spend all of their money, or do they want to go and save a lot more so that way they can protect themselves and potentially build wealth for the future. This is not a new phenomenon in the United States. Generations have done this over and over again, and I think in 2023, this is a really particular question that people need to answer for themselves. You have to figure out what you want in life. Basically, you have to figure out if delayed gratification is for you, and that means that you're going to, instead of spending a bunch of money today, you are going to save your money and invest your money so that way you can use it and have a lot more tomorrow and essentially build wealth for your family or for somebody else that you essentially want to give this money to down the road. Like I said, it's delayed gratification. And I have no problem with people spending their money and spending their money however they want. I mean, it's far be it from me to tell you how to spend your money. Like I've said before on this channel, I would never give you total financial advice. Everybody's situation is going to be completely different, right? So you have to spend money in a way that makes sense for you, but delayed gratification is important because if you're kind of just chasing this high of having the bigger and better next thing, well, then you're pretty much never going to have it. If you just want a bunch of money in this life, then you're never going to have enough money because enough money and having that money isn't really what you're after. You're after that high of getting the money. And the same thing goes for Gen Z with this idea of chasing things or chasing experiences, right? Eventually that idea and that gratification is going to wear off at some point because there's going to be a lot of other things sort of chasing you down. I know Gen Z wants to do all of these things, but these things cost a lot of money. I mean, look at the price of concert tickets or just goods and services or travel expenses. All of these different things have gone up exponentially in price over the last 2 or 3 years, and that means it's expensive, and Gen Z isn't really making enough money in order to support all of the things that they want to do. So they don't have an income that can support going out and doing all of these things, which means a lot of them are leveraging debt, and a lot of Gen Z is leveraging buy now, pay later in order to afford the lifestyle that they want to live. This is a very dangerous financial practice, and eventually you are not going to have either. You're not going to have the wealth or the finances to support your life, but you're also not going to be able to afford the things that you want. And to me, that could just bring a lot of bad feelings into your life and a lot of regret and resentment for everything around you. So like I said before, save for an emergency, and if you can, save for a little bit further than that. But don't save every dollar that you have because you don't need to. You can't just simply save your life away because it's not going to matter. I've known people that have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that money gets depleted so quickly the second you go to spend it. And this is people that have saved their entire lives. You have to put your money to work if you really want to grow your wealth and get to use your money later on down the road. Of course, save for the things that you want, right? Like if you want a particular vacation or a concert, save up for those things so that way you don't go further into debt. These things are just going to be carried around with you forever, and you have to ask yourself, was that one concert that you went to 2 or 3 years ago good enough for you to continue paying it off for the next 3, 5, and 6 years? Now that is the saving side, but the other big thing that's going on with Gen Z right now is on the investment side and the wealth building side. Many members of Gen Z simply don't believe that they're going to be able to retire. Now, if you're a part of Gen Z and you're watching this video and you're thinking, yeah, I'm not going to be able to retire, my income isn't going to be able to support it. If I just save in a 401k, that's not going to do it either. So why save up at all? And the answer to me is very simple. Traditional retirement is probably going away. If you look at your grandparents being able to retire at 65 and then do nothing for the rest of their life, well, that is not something that really works in this new economy. You're not really able to do that anymore because we have things like inflation and because there is a lot more to buy right now. You think about 50 to 60 years ago, we had one income households. The spouse would stay home and there only was one person essentially making money, and you could live off of that. 2 people and a family could live off of that. Then 20 or 30 years after that, you needed 2 incomes. And what's going to happen in the future? Are we going to need 3 income households? Are we going to need 4 income households, right? This is the reality that we have to sort of live with in today's economy, and you're not going to be able to get around that simply because you don't make enough money. You're not going to be able to get around that idea of retirement unless you make a ton more money. And the reality is most of us are not going to become mega millionaires. We're not going to become billionaires, and that is okay. But that doesn't mean that today you can't live a life that you're proud of, be financially independent, and eventually have some sort of retirement. But that retirement is just going to look a lot different than what it looked like for our parents and grandparents. What you have to ask yourself, no matter what generation you are, is if you want something, then you have to figure out how to get that thing. Because I can almost guarantee you, if you just continuously say, I'm never gonna get that, that will never happen to me, then you'll never try it. And it will never happen to you because you never tried it. But if you figure out a way to actually get the things you want in life, then you might get a whole lot closer, and that is worth something. Here is the reality of the situation. You could start investing your money today and invest for the next 30 and 40 years, even just a small amount, and you still might not have enough to retire, right? But you could end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that can fuel your lifestyle for a very, very long time. That could still give you something, right? You didn't end up empty-handed, you ended up with something. And to me, something is better than nothing. So why not try to invest something? Why not try to go out and do something so that way you can have something? Like I said before though, Gen Z has an opportunity here because for one, it is easier to invest today than it pretty much ever has been in American history. You can pretty much pull up an investment app on your phone and start investing with $1, right? No, you're not going to become a millionaire by just investing $1, but it sort of builds on itself. And Gen Z has the advantage with a lot of time. The earlier you start investing, the more your money can compound with interest over time. And that could make you a lot of money simply by you just investing a little bit a lot earlier. But the longer you wait, the harder it is to get that interest and the harder it is for your money to compound and actually mean something. The other thing too, because interest rates are so high, which is hurting our economy in a variety of different ways, it could actually help your savings. So if Gen Z was actually to save their money right now in a high yield savings account, well, some banks are willing to give you over 5% interest on every single dollar that you save, which is historic. And it means that your money is going to be making you money simply by sitting in a bank account. So Gen Z could easily make money just by doing that, by saving a little bit of their money here and there, and then investing the rest of it. And that money can compound over time. And they could end up with something, which like I said before, is better than nothing. And I want to just give you one last piece of perspective here. This is not every member of Generation Z. There are some members of Generation Z that are financially literate and understand our system and invest a lot of money and save a good portion of their money too for emergencies and anything that they want in this life, right? So there is a lot of Gen Z out there that are doing the right things. And the ones that are investing and saving, they're typically ahead of the curve, even past a lot of millennials, right? They are financially educated. They want to continue to be entrepreneurs and business owners and wealthy in today's economy, and they know what to do, but the vast majority aren't doing that. Like I said before, the ones that are way better off, but the ones that aren't are hurting financially. But it all comes down to what you want, and it all comes down to how you want to live your life. That is it for me, everybody. Be kind out there, and I'll see you all in the next one.